Yeah, the single leg deadlift is one of my favorite exercises, but it is pretty advanced to do because you have to stand on one leg and you have to learn the hinge movement, which are pretty difficult for people that are just starting off and beginning to train. I've also seen it really difficult people that are really advanced and been working out for many years just to stabilize and stand on this one leg. So before we even touch a weight to do this exercise, I'm going to show you some tricks and tips on how to master this single leg hinge exercise, all right? So I call it a single leg hinge because basically what we're doing is we're trying to hinge at our hip, all right? We're not bending down like this to touch our toes, rounding in our back. We're trying to actively move at the hip joint. So if you notice here, I start off by bending my knee, and then from there, I move my hip joint. So you'll notice that I move my hips back, and I'm trying to sit into this back hip to work on this glute. Now, because my leg is bent, I'm getting a little bit of quad, all right? Depending on your hamstring flexibility, you can straighten it out a little bit more to get more of a RDL, a Romanian deadlift variation, to get more of that hamstring muscle right there. All right, so there's a couple different ways that you can do it. Before we talk about the specifics of that, let's just get started on how to do the exercise with a little bit of assistance. I'm going to show 3 different ways that we can use assistance for this. So first up, having a bar, a nice sturdy bar or pole to hold on to. All right, so basically what we want to do is, if I'm standing on one leg, let's say I'm standing right here on my left leg, all right? Well, if I'm missing this right leg, I naturally want to kind of fall into this side because I'm missing this leg. So we're going to want to grab a hold of the pole with the opposite arm. Now what I'd say is, we don't want to like hug the pole like this. Don't rely on it. Have the hand kind of here, just like slightly hovering around it. Once you do that, we're going to bend down, try to hinge. Don't worry about trying to touch the toes. Don't worry about how low you're going. Just focus on being stable, owning that movement. You can even start with just a little movement like this. You saw there, I kind of used my hand to support me with this, pushing against it. Once you own that little movement, we can start to extend the movement, get a little bit deeper into it. All right. Now, if you really need to, okay, you can hold on to this pole the whole time to focus on the actual movement of it and how to sit into our hips and hinge at this joint right there. All right. So holding on to it will teach you how to effectively do the movement in the hip. Once you're done with that and you want to work a little more on your stability, take that hand off and use it just in case you need help with it. All right, whoop, just like that, it's there. Let me show you, so maybe you don't have a pole, but you have a wall. Let me show you how to do it with a wall. So there's 2 different ways that we can use a wall, all right? A wall is a little bit different than a pole, because you can't really wrap your arm around it and grab onto it. We just have it here for feedback. We could press against it, okay? So same kind of method applies, all right? We're gonna stand on the outside leg, so I'm standing on my left leg, my right side and right arm on the wall to support. So the exact same move, Chinese getting down, lowering yourself into that position, and then standing up, all right? Again, we have the wall here, and you can kind of slide your hand up and down to help you out with it. You can move it out, all right? But it's here just in case you need it, all right? Now, a little bit more of an advanced way to do this is to use the wall as an endpoint, something to kind of reach for. Now, this one, depending on like what skill level you're at, it could kind of mess with how you move at your hip, because I've seen people like, hey, reach for the wall. They're like, okay, huh, and they just fall into the wall, okay? We don't want to fall into the wall, okay? So we're not letting our body fall forward to the wall. Instead, what we're trying to do is still get that hinge movement, but we're using the wall as a point of contact at the very end. So stand on that one leg, soften that knee a little bit, hinge at the hip. So you're noticing I'm trying to move my hip back. As I'm doing that, I'm going to reach for the wall. In the end position, I should be able to touch the wall again. I'm not leaning forward right here. My hip is behind my heel and my knee is slightly above my knee. From there, I can stand up. I usually like to end with a high knee. You don't have to do that. All right, hinge down, whoop, and see the wall is there just in case you need it for little taps. We want to try to finish right there with your hands on the wall at the very end. Sitting back on that hip. Another thing you can do is extend that back leg. Think of that back leg as a tail. Extend it. It's hard to extend the back leg back when you're falling forward, okay? So again, we don't want to fall forward on the wall like this. Boom. If your arms are bent, press your arms away from the wall, and that's going to be in the end position right there. Then bring it up. So that's the third variation you can use to try to help you own and master that movement. Now that you got the movement down and you understand how to move with the hip and you have a little more stability in your leg, we can start to introduce a weight to this. You can use all different kinds of weights. You can use dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, medicine balls, sandbags. Hell, you could even use a kid if you have a little kid you could hold on to, all right? You can hold on to a weight with 2 hands or 1 hand. Now, I've seen a couple different variations of people doing this. I've seen some people do the same leg, same arm. So if they're standing on the right leg, they have the weight in the right arm. All right. That is going to be a personal preference and based on how you feel. Let's say you have better stability holding on to it, same arm, same leg. Feel free to give that one a try, okay? It's gonna be a little bit easier on the glutes just because of how it's working. I prefer to go opposite arm, opposite leg. So if I'm standing on the right, I have the weight in the left. That helps me get a little bit more tension out of this glute because there's like a little stretch effect coming on. So I'm holding, when I'm bending down right here, the weight's on this side of my body, so it's going through this shoulder, down to the back, into this glute and hamstring. So that's why I prefer holding with the opposite arm. I feel like it gets a little more out of the movement, all right? But let's say, hey, you have the movement down, but you still need some help with your stability. That's where the pull comes in. When we're using a weight, all right, we're gonna have to use, and this one we're gonna have to use it with 1 hand. The pull is gonna be very helpful, all right? Again, I don't want you to rely on the pull the whole time. Have it here, just gently hold on to it. If you feel like your body's moving away from it, again, just have the hand right here. So I'm gonna hinge down. I got my hand here for some feedback. We're gonna stand up. Feel free to push the other foot to the floor at the top. Slowly lower, hinging at the hip. Boom, bring it right back up. Right there. Again, you have this, just in case your stability falls off. All right. Now another thing, one more thing you can do, I know there's lots of things that we can do here to improve, is hold it. Do an isometric hold. So that would look like, it's very similar to yoga. I think it's like Warrior 3, something like that. Stand on one leg, hinge at those hips, and just hold this. Holding this for 20 to 30 seconds is really gonna work on that balance. What do you do with your arms and legs? That doesn't matter. You could have your arms overhead, you could have them to the side. I just wouldn't have them hanging down like this. Try to keep the arms back slightly so that way your whole backside is engaged. Back leg can be straight out like this, slightly bent, whatever. But holding that exercise in that bottom position is going to really work on your stability. We also want to make sure that you can own it and actually hinge the hip and you're feeling that glute working. You're gonna feel a lot of different muscles there. You're gonna feel muscles in your feet and ankles, your quad and hamstring. All right, that said, that completes it. And just one more time to show you what we began the video with was just a single leg deadlift, all right? So if I'm doing this with a kettlebell now, and again, I prefer a kettlebell over a dumbbell simply because of the height. What I like about this is that a dumbbell, the handle's about right here, so we're not really able to touch the floor unless you're really flexible, but with a kettlebell, it's gonna naturally limit the range of motion and it helps with stability because we can kind of touch it to the floor at the bottom. So you're gonna hinge down, grab a hold of the kettlebell, make sure everything is tight in that leg, grab a hold of it, boom, stand up. Again, feel free to put the foot down, be nice and tall at the top, slowly lower. All right, you don't have to go all the way down. Maybe this is your range of motion, all right? That's okay to not go all the way down, but we want to be able to work to that point to where you can get all the way down to the ground, all right? Let me show you, same arm, same leg. If we're doing, depending on where the weight is, the same movement applies, you're just gonna feel it a little bit differently. So experiment and try the different variations here of where to hold on to the weights. Hell, We can do it like this, where we're straight in front. Tap the toes, bring it up. Let me show you from this angle. Holding onto the kettlebell, 2 hands. If you're doing this with a barbell or a sandbag, you're probably gonna be holding onto it with 2 hands as well. And that kind of demonstrates the single leg hinge, which also shows you the single leg deadlift. Feel free to use the pull, the wall, and those exercises to get to own the movement and get better at the form. Again, we want to prioritize quality over quantity. Once you have the quality down, we can start to add some weights to it and then ramp it up from there. But this is an excellent exercise for for muscle-wise, the backside of your legs. But from actual performance side, it's really good for longevity. It's gonna keep you balanced and stable, which decreases over time. It's gonna help you with injury prevention, because when you are stable, you're less likely of falling over and messing up tendons and ligaments. And also performance. Yes, being stable is very important for performance. You have to run, stop, and be stable on certain things. So if this video helped you out, let me know. Put it in the comments what you liked about it. If you have a friend of yours that has poor stability, they can't stand on one leg, show them this video. Demonstrate the exercises for them. So if you found this valuable and you know that somebody can benefit from this, share it with them, leave a comment, and I'll see you next time.